Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Daily with Doc and Becca. My name is Becca Dukes, and it is my honor and privilege to be a resource for an amazing community that includes you, because you're watching, and helping you add tools to your toolbox that are empowering and giving information to help you know how to help yourself. And when we're helping ourselves and helping our communities, families, then together as we're helping the communities, we're helping people around the world find a better health journey. This program is being sponsored by dailywithdoc.com. So there you will find a good foods, bad foods list. You'll find our previous episodes. You'll find some additional information and articles that pertain to health and wellness, and a store. One thing I want you to remember, because this is super important, because we are a resource for an amazing community, we want to make sure that if you were referred to this program by somebody specific, you get back with them. They cared enough about you to share this program because they knew you would be getting some information to help you realize how you can be or are an empowered individual, even when it comes to your health. So, folks, get back with the person that shared this program with you. And just as a reminder, this program is for educational purposes only. It's not meant to take the place of your primary care physician, nor is it meant to treat, diagnose, or cure a disease. My name is Becca Dukes. As a certified holistic health coach, a certified naturopathic practitioner, and the director of student services for the Institute of Holistic Health, we are really creating a strong community that if you're looking for a community to be part of, you can get more information about being part of the community, learning more about health and wellness and the power of nutrition by going to coach.dailywithdoc.com. There you'll find more information about the Certified Holistic Health Coach course from the Institute of Holistic Health, and whether you use it to build a business and coach others or just for general knowledge, it's an affordable way to help save you and be more proactive than reactive when it comes to your health. So, folks, let's go ahead and jump right into today's program, as I am excited to have my dear friend, Yvonne Rea. She is a pain specialist, but she's not just a pain specialist. She has so many modalities that she incorporates into her toolbox in helping others as a practitioner. Yvonne, thank you so much for being here with us again on Daily with Doc. You know, you have so many certifications, so many qualifications, so many hats that you wear. What are some of your favorite hats? Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'll say a mom. That's probably a
And
favorite.
mom.
But yeah, I absolutely love microcurrent, and I love working at the clinic using various NASA, DARPA tools that are available to all of us. We just didn't know about it. And so those would probably be my first. And probably about 3 years ago, I got my certification in amino acids for brain health, because one of the challenges that I was coming across is sometimes I got invited over to a brain health center here in Sacramento, because let's just start with them. They were really struggling to help their clients because they had so much pain. So I came in, as the on-site pain specialist. But I learned so much from that community and amino acids, along with tools and devices they were using. But through the certification, I also began to recognize, even my own clients, sometimes if we don't have that brain health, that brain power, it was really difficult for them to focus on whether it was weight loss or relieving, getting relief from this pain and making choices on trying something outside of the box that they already knew. It was almost like there wasn't, space for it, either because of a false mood, or again, just because the pain was so, it was just taking over everything.
Yeah, I understand that completely. How when pain takes over, you just can't function.
Right.
Whether it's your thought, your emotions, and then the brain controls so many different processes within the body. It's crazy.
Well, and I learned through the certification and through working with it's called Theta Wellness, that we've heard this, but I just witnessed it, and that is, there truly is not only physical pain, but emotional and behavioral pain that can really inhibit a quality of life. So
Absolutely.
you know, as a grandmother, I'm hoping to speak to parents and grandparents about some of, you know, what we're going to talk about today, not only for ourselves, but go ahead.
Well, you're an educator. You teach nutrition in addition to the frequencies and the devices and, you know, trying to expedite that healing cure curve.
That hurt. Yeah, I'm that curve. Let's shorten that curve. Nutrition
Yes.
and tools, technology and biology. It's a beautiful marriage.
And you're a volunteer.
Yes.
You're also a veteran. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for your service.
absolutely. I had a blast.
I bet. I bet. Well, today we're going to be talking about that amino acid therapy for the brain,
Yes.
right? So let's go ahead and jump on into that. And you just tell me when you want the slides to show.
Well, if you want to pull them up, we might kind of quickly go through a couple of them, and just so that we can get to a point here. These are slides that I teach in my classes, so there may be some additional information here that isn't necessary for this, but let's use what we have, and we can go ahead and push forward. You know, and so that first slide said something about cravings. There are many of us have food cravings. And remember, the very regulators of the brain that control your mood also control, excuse me, that control your food cravings also control your mood. So there's a book out there called Feed Your Brain, Change Your Life. That's by Daniel Amen. There's also several others that are using that very same philosophy. One would be Julia Ross out of the San Francisco area. She is absolutely incredible. She is the pioneer here. And this is where my credentials are founded, all of her research. And I'm going to let me just open up my slide here because mine is really, really teeny. Hang on just a second. So am I messing with that or is that mine? Okay,
So they only see my screen.
excellent.
We only see you. So
Great,
whatever you're doing is just fine.
great. So one of them, again, there's the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition. And then, like I said, Julia Ross. And I'm going to show just a quick book or two. One is called The Craving Cure. And there are, just, you know, I'm going to challenge you. First of all, get a pencil and paper because I'm going to try to fire quite a bit at you. I want you to go look up on Google, just type in amino acid books, let alone amino acid therapy. I think you will be as surprised as I was a few years ago how much it's out there, and yet I felt like I had never heard of it. And if you like this book, this one has a similar feel. So he goes through much of the nutrients, and then same with the craving cure. She goes through these five, there's technically, well, there's six essentials. I think she may be leaving one out, and it's in one of her other books. But, you know, she's literally opened up clinics and done some amazing things. And I do not see the slides. Are they up?
I'm going to pull them back up because we weren't able to see the books you were holding up
Oh,
previously.
certainly. Thank you.
All right. Are you ready
So,
for the next?
yes, yeah, and let's just stop for a second. Towards the bottom, I just want to say something about some pro tips. You know, ideally, you want to address the root cause and, you know, move beyond the symptom, right? Symptom management. And we're going to give you some tools today here to actually do that. Not my opinion, it is available, and you'll find, again, for the underlying issues of brain imbalance. We have many stories. I think if we have time, Rebecca, and you can go ahead and push that up. If we have time, I have at least, a few people that wanted to share some of their experience here just working with me locally. But again, feed your brain, change your life. This is all about neurotransmitter deficiencies. And what does that look like? So, do you know anybody? I'm just going to kind of put a few things out there. Do you know anybody that has, uh, you know, cravings? Let's just start with food cravings. Whether it's for fats and sugars, and maybe along with the fats and sugars, because these can go together. If you are what's called a low endorphin, that's going to be things like fats and sugar cravings. You're looking for uh, uh, comfort foods. You may do comfort activities, anything from, food, alcohol, opiates, binges, really sensitive to pain or cry easily. That might be that person. Same with, depression, anxiety, maybe somebody that needs a little calmness in their life. They need to take a chill pill. So we're going to hit some stories on that. You can see on my slide, there's a couple that have been shared just by using these amino acids for brain health. But ultimately, we're going to talk first about, what are amino acids, if you want to move to the next. Keep going. Oh, and we'll stop real quick right here. Ultimately, our emotions, our actions, our responses to stress, all happen in the brain. And when we feed our brain, we typically will have normal responses. But when the neurotransmitters are depleted, we get something that is called false moods. And we'll talk about those a little bit later, but that would be things, again, resulting in apathy, depression, anxiety, insomnia. You can have withdrawals, and it can get to the point where the cravings will move into addictions. Go ahead. So the first thing you want to know before we dive in is the brain actually needs the lion's share of the nutrients. But if you get low, the body will actually take it. We cannot eat enough to actually replenish what's happening, or I should say it's very difficult. So by learning about amino acids for brain health, you're going to use concentrated doses of these food sources, in a capsule to replenish. And it's very interesting because researchers, like I said, show that the average person will feel a difference in 1 to 20 minutes. I'll tell you, when I was going through my certification, first of all, we have to have 22 cases that are presented, but part of it is we not only try all the amino acids, but we have to actually push past tolerance so that we have an adverse reaction. And what is really neat is to see how quickly, not only did I personally see the change when it did hit my brain, but when people would come in and I'm just going to tell you a quick story. There was a young Marine, 27, married, working, now out of the Marine Corps. And he came into my office. For the last year, he had had high anxiety to the point that he had moved back in with his mom. He barely left his room. He played video games all day long, lost his job, wasn't eating. And we had talked on the phone prior to coming in. He also had some physical pain. So he's actually coming in for this physical pain, but we had to get past the anxiety that he was experiencing. And as soon as he walked in, we had already had a phone conversation. We started him with one of the neurotransmitters for a calming effect, a chill. It kind of you'll feel your shoulders kind of drop. Well, he comes in, I have a couch. He's literally sitting on the back of my couch, the back side. His feet are on the seat. He grabs one of my blankets and he has it over his head and shoulders. Uh, as soon as he took it, maybe within about 15 minutes, he had moved from the top of the couch, putting his rump in the seat, and dropped the blanket over his shoulder. I said, "How do you feel?" He said he felt good. I said, "Do you think you could feel a little better?" Yes. So we trialed a second, um, and within probably less than 5 minutes, he had taken the blanket completely off. His feet were on the floor. His mom had actually come and she could hear us laughing in the office, and she knocked on the door to come in, and she saw a completely different, son than what had just walked into the room. And I'm excited to say, it's been about a year and 3 months now. Within 3 months or so, he was back with his wife, his own apartment, his own job, and he's been stable, ever since. If you want to go to the next slide.
And that was adding what? Were you dosing again?
So with that one, and we'll get to it in just a moment, but it was GABA.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll talk about GABA. So a couple things if you decide that this is a therapy that you want to try. Obviously, our brain by weight is somewhere upwards of 80% proteins and fats. So to support a higher protein diet, most of the time, like I said, if you get low here, it's almost impossible to eat this much because the body will actually try to consume um, that food source. Okay, so but once you get started, I want you to recognize that the diet can begin to turn things around, and you're already in the process of repairing that neurochemistry. Go ahead and move up. And once you get started, you'll make some tweaks. So, what are neurotransmitters? They're molecules. How are they helped? They're helped with amino acids. And remember, many of these things are technically hormones. So, these are all the things that we'll be talking about are actually the precursors to make these hormones. How many of you recognize, when your hormones are low, seems to be a mood shift. When the stress is high, there's a mood shift. All of this is actually interrelated. And just as a reminder, none of these aminos can do anything without the Uber drivers of the minerals. Remember, there's 60 minerals minimum that we know the body's required. Well, they act as the Uber drivers to get these neurotransmitters to the places that they're supposed to go. You have any questions yet for me?
Well, Yvonne, I know as we were talking through, talk a little bit about that false mood.
Certainly. So, many have coined the term false mood. I did not. I think it's very appropriate knowing what I know today. How many of us have, and I'm just going to start with grandkids because I hear this often. Um, uh, we have a child, or let's just say parent or you have a child, they're at home, they seem to be okay, they get to school, and the teacher is, calling you of reports that your child is, ADD, ADHD, labels that became very well known probably in the 90s approximately. I want to take a look at two things when this happens. One, what are you feeding the child before he walks out? And so many of us are eating Pop-Tarts. We're eating Eggo waffles. We're eating carbohydrates. There's no proteins given to the child. And if they're on a free meal plan at school, both breakfast and lunch consist of more carbohydrates and sugars and less proteins. And these will, in fact, not only create a neurotransmitter deficiency, because remember, those do no rebuilding of the body. Carbohydrates don't actually rebuild. They provide energy source to us. It is the proteins and fats, minerals that provide rebuild for tissue. But they say something like 1 in 6 kids below high school age are on some form of an antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication. So, the first thing we look at is that really your child? Is it about what he's being fed? And, when you see them actually, those neurotransmitters turn back on, you're like, there's my child. I remember that happening in my own home. Some of us see it in our families around the time of puberty. For girls, oftentimes it's when they start their cycle. There's a direct correlation to the hormones, to the foods. Now, for my daughter, she's now going to school. Even though lunch was provided here, they're trading food, and then they've got all those ghee dunk machines, right? I couldn't control what was going on there. So these are things I want you to think about. So the false moods. Some will say in the 70s, our food choices actually got hijacked. That is when several things occurred, one of them being that they allowed numerous chemicals, one of them being corn syrup, because there's fructose, which the body can use, glucose and fructose. One was sweeter, and we started utilizing that in all kinds of foods. And then at near the same time, right around the 70s, our president, if anybody remembers the gas shortages, also allowed for cheap chemicals to make cheaper foods come into and on the scene. And many of those, some reports say somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 chemicals here in the United States that other countries do not have. So you can begin to see the shift. And then, of course, we changed from our animal fats to corn oil, seed oils. These things are not good for the body.
All of those bottled oils that Dr. Wallach has been saying for decades to avoid.
Absolutely. And so, as far as the bad mood, things started to shift. There was also, that was about the time that Prozac came in, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but in clinical psychology, they knew things like tryptophan was very good. But then there was a bad batch that was sent over from China. And if you want to look this up, that company admittedly knew that they sent a bad batch. And so we did have thousands of reports of people using this to increase the hormone serotonin in clinical settings. And that created a shift, and they actually stopped the use of it for a time. But again, when you go take a look at that lawsuit, they actually knew that they had sent us bad stuff.
bad.
And so tryptophan got the bad rap.
And tryptophan is an amino acid, for those of you who are not familiar with that. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Sorry. But I just stopped using ChatGPT.
I'm not sure why. Go ahead.
Are you ready to go back to the slides?
I am.
All right.
And you can go ahead and roll up. So a few sources of amino acids, I think most of us know them. And then of course we have a list of amino acids on our good food, or not our, where is it on?
DailyWithDoc.com, the good foods, bad foods list.
And what are all the amino acids? But I want you to, recognize there's a couple types of amino acids, obviously through foods. For those, like I work with a lot of people that either for dentition reasons why, or stomach or absorption, they struggle to get proteins in. So you can get amino acids in free form. They're available from your vitamin store. I would prefer you to, try the plant-based options. And then I know Becca will probably have a little bit that she can talk about that's available, through Doc. But think about these amino acids. Remember, amino acids are the building blocks to life, to tissue. If you take a look at the slide, I put some guys up there literally building because we need these to do that. And after we eat foods that are rich in amino acids, it can be hard for the stomach to break down. So again, some of these free forms can be an option, but they are required, and they cannot do anything without the Uber drivers of the minerals. Now, some of these amino acids can cross the blood-brain barrier. Some of them cannot, and we'll talk about that as well. Go ahead. So over time, because you're going to be taking amino acids in higher concentration, it's a short duration. It's 6 months to maybe 24. And I've seen people even under 3 months recognize that those neurotransmitters, those hormones, are actually back functioning properly. And much like an aspirin, we might suggest, hey, keep some amino acids in your closet, just in case. But once that rebuild has happened, other than some of the holiday events, which we'll talk about in a minute, you won't need to continue to take these unless you're a person, let's just say, that's constantly skipping meals. Then I would encourage you to get some, again, free form amino acids. And I know we have some drinks that have amino acids in them as well. Next slide.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Longevity offers the AminoCharge, the Befull AminoCharge. There's also the Get Going Plus, all three of those, and then the H.G.H precursors, which is a capsule for those that don't want to drink something. All of them are very high in amino acids to help with what we are talking about today.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
Yeah. And so there are several amino acids that, play in this false mood. These ones right here will help regulate those false moods. So I'm going to hit this quickly, and then we'll go into them a little more specifically. Catecholamines, that's going to be your dopamine, your neuroepinephrines. This is stuff that will help sustain brain energy, drive, motivation, enthusiasm. It's part of the reward syndrome in the body. Next is the hormones serotonin, melatonin, you know, that's your sleep-wake cycle, but that's also your positive mood. I had one lady, she said, Yvonne, it's like my negative thoughts, they just would fall off and they weren't sticking like they used to. And this was a practitioner as well. But positive mood, again, cravings. So each of these will have some very specific types of cravings. Usually the catecholamines are more the sweets. The serotonins will have cravings. The endorphins, like I said earlier, some are salts and fats. Some are sugars and fats. And then there's GABA. GABA is it works on the nervous system. It's used for all kinds of things, including pain. Many of you may recognize a medication called gabapentin, and this is based off of GABA. And many people are no longer utilizing their gabapentin because they've increased the GABA neurotransmitters. So a lot of times the pharmaceutical will take a food source, remember this, and make a synthetic. So I always say, all of this, I love it. God knew what he was doing. You know, he said, from the ground I drew you. We're supposed to eat what comes from there, and the minerals are from there. So GABA, again, everything is needs the minerals. And then, of course, like I said, the endorphins. And those, if you have somebody maybe that has a little excess crying, pain control, we have these endorphin pain receptors. This is something that many can transfer, possibly if you are on a long-term pain medication. See if those neurotransmitters and those pain receptors can't be built back up. And now you're doing your body good by doing so. All right, next. So we're not going to get into these two today, but these, remember I said 6. So that was for these other two, for blood sugar control. You can look back at history. We have used glutamine for all types of health challenges, blood sugar. If you have somebody who is, let's just say, they come home at night and they just want to chill a little bit, right? So they have that one glass of wine. Or maybe it's somebody who eats well or does well during the day, but they really need to have that ice cream at night. That's the one vice they just can't seem to give up. I've had people, they were told that they were alcoholics by that one glass of wine. And in a week's time, or maybe 3, they're no longer having that wine. And so again, it's that kind of that false mood thing, or sometimes we judge and people have been told, well, because you can't give it up, you must be an alcoholic, or you are an alcoholic, or you have alcoholic tendencies. When you come in and take a look at these neurotransmitters, my heart is going to say, please don't ever say that to somebody. You don't know what's going on in their life. But I have seen so many changes with this one alone, the glutamine. And then there's those that, you know, they eat late at night. There is a nutrient deficiency, but imagine if we can increase the amino acid glutamine in a concentrated dose, you will see a change in their food behavior. How many have sat countless hours in talk therapy about their food? And I've heard this from them. Some recognize that there is a component, But then there'll be others that have said, Yvonne, I went through that. I never really fully believed it. And then they're trying some of these food sources to change the neurotransmitters in the brain, to change the blood sugars in the body. And real change begins to happen.
Wow. I
we
know a lot of people that this can benefit.
Well, yeah,
So,
I mean, this needs to be over at, NA, Alcoholics Anonymous, anybody that's running a weight loss clinic. It's just food. It's God's food. You use it in concentrated, your hormones, and obviously you do need to be taking the right amount of omegas to make those hormones, but all of these are regulated together. And I think that's so beautiful. And real quick, another player, we just touched on it earlier, was about the tryptophan. That was actually, I think, Albert let me know, I think you guys only have tryptophan in Australia, but not the 5-HTP. And the 5-HTP is also, has some tryptophan in it. Do you know, Albert, by chance?
that might have been AJ.
No, I don't. It could have been AJ then, but I don't, Yvonne.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And then the last one is really not on too many lists just yet, but I think it's coming up, is a player in bonding, and that is the oxytocin, oftentimes called the love hormone, the bonding hormone. It's secreted when partners are together, when mother and child nursing. It plays a role in reducing stress, and also allows for that healthy, again, bonding effect. I do want to note each one of these will hit a little bit on the sleep, but notice a pro tip in this: calcium plays if you can't get to sleep or you can't stay asleep. And remember, calcium is never by itself. You always want to bring the Uber drivers with it because that's how it functions best. But depending upon if you can't get to sleep or you can't stay asleep, there's one or two things going on, but calcium is part of both of those.
So for that pro tip, and we're talking about calcium and those Uber drivers, would the OsteoFX that's provided by Longevity contain those Uber drivers that are needed? Or would you need another dose of plant-derived minerals with them?
Well, obviously everybody would be maybe at a different point. You will find some that will be plenty. I mean, I have people in my clinic. I personally have not seen another calcium product like this. A lot of people are using CalMag. If you're using CalMag, get this. I mean, they call it their night juice. Obviously, I started it because I had some bone health challenges, but I personally haven't seen anything better. Now, will they need some additional? If I remember correctly, the calcium in this is 1,200 milligrams, and I think the mineral content, I can't remember if it was 300 or 600 milligrams. But I would refer to your health professional, but always adding additional plant-derived minerals, absolutely. It will not hurt. You might pee out a buck or two, big deal. If you're feeling better, if your quality of life is better, bring it on, right?
Absolutely. Are you ready for the next slide?
I am. Yep. And we're going to try to, what's my timing? Because I realize I might be a little.
So we've got 15 minutes. We do have a hand up.
Okay. Do you want to ask the question first on the hand?
AJ.
Well, you talked about for addictions. What about for smokers? Is there something that you had there?
I have seen personally with smokers, one, if you get just on a nutrient dense pack, I've seen people have less cravings for smoking. Now, the tough part is the amount of chemicals that are in our tobacco. So we actually do have nicotine receptors. If you haven't ever tried the nicotine patches, the gums, the mints, I would highly recommend it, even if you don't have, if you're not a smoker. Many people will find a boost of energy. There's also some impact on the RNA of the body and some of the other chemicals and proteins that have been put into our foods. So there'll be a direct correlation and benefit simply because of that. But I mean, the patches and there's a gentleman out there by the name of Dr. Brian Artis, and he's kind of an expert on the nicotine, but that could be something very beneficial, along with, like I said, I've seen people have a decreased desire in smoking once they started a strong nutrient
But
program.
particular aminos.
There is not one that I'm remembering or familiar with in the moment. No.
Okay, well, let's ask another question while we have some questions going on. So ZZ Captain out on YouTube is wanting your definition of amino.
I'd have to look that one up. It's a protein. It's a protein, and then what happens for it to become an amino, technically, well, no, let's see, you've got that chemical bond. Ask me the question differently. It's a protein. It's
amino acids. Yeah, so basically, what are amino acids? They're proteins.
They're proteins, yeah. And what has to happen, they're these molecules that have a chemical bond. And a lot of times people can't break down that chemical bond in the stomach because their stomach acid isn't high enough. You'll see as we go on, HCl and ox bile is recommended as well for your amino acids, especially if you do take them and you find that they're not working. Usually they'll hit the blood pretty quickly, but if they're not working, let's go in and take a look at one, are you taking them with food? Because ideally in the beginning, you don't want to, so that you can figure out how and how is it impacting me? And then again, you would take a look at the digestive health.
And AJ put some information in the chat here, and you folks, one of the greatest things about being live with us here in the Zoom is you get to take advantage of the chat that's going on that's not available anywhere else. So if you'd like to join us live, we're here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific, 1 to 2 Mountain, 2 to 3 Central, 3 to 4 Eastern. And amino acids are vital for various biological processes, including building proteins, hormones, and neurotransmitters. So we want to make sure we're getting enough amino acids.
Well, throughout the whole body. And remember, right now, we're just talking some very specific amino acids for brain health. In meat, there's over 20 amino acids. We know that of the 20, near half of them, 12 of them, are required. It's been researched. If you don't have them, they saw in these cells, tiny, tiny microtears begin to happen. You take in that food source, and those microtears begin to kind of shore back up. That's what it means. Why? What is essential? Why do I care about essential? One, your body can't make it. Two, without it, it will fail somewhere. And these neurotransmitters will begin to fail first, and then it does impact our hormones, because these neurotransmitters, well, these nutrients, let me back up, are the precursors to make the hormones and these neurotransmitters.
Okay, and I think we're going to have a part 2 and continue on with this because we've got more questions coming in. Let's go to Hattie. Please unmute yourself. What is your question?
Well, you were speaking about how the amino acids, how important they are to be with particular proteins to get them through the body. Anyway, I was just thinking about vegetarians or vegans, and you just spoke about how meat is a great source. But how would we address those who don't do meat or don't do dairy?
Well, you do first have to recognize that there will be some things that you'll need to supplement with. And it's not that, I didn't mean to state that meat alone, but proteins. We do know that in meat that there are over 20 plus amino acids, so there are some supplementations. I do know that there's a book, I think it's called The Secret Life of Vegans. And he talks about, hey, if you're going to make this lifestyle choice, you need to understand what you're not getting in that type of diet. Okay. And then I believe Doc also did I can't remember the name of it right now, but he also did a recording for those that are, choosing that diet lifestyle, pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan. Becca, do you remember the name of that recording?
I do not.
Okay, I can certainly find it. I have it, I know it, it just escapes me. And I do see that we have somebody with their hand raised, Michelle, and if she's open to it outside of her question, I would love for her, I know her and her family have had a personal experience, trying amino acids. Is it okay to call upon her?
Yes, absolutely. Michelle?
Hi, Becca and Yvonne. I am here in a Mexican restaurant with my second mother. But I just wanted to let you know about one of the aminos. I went to my very first time of meeting Yvonne, went to one of her training classes, and we filled out this little questionnaire, kind of like our health evaluation. And she says, well, I think I'm going to give you this one. She didn't tell me what it was, but she mixed it up in a little cup and I drank it. And it was like an immediate, I could open, my eyes felt really tired and it's like I couldn't open them. And then she said, well, let's try one more. And I said, okay. And she said, well, let's do a half. And so we did a half. And then all of a sudden the eyes opened up more fully. I've always had like squinty eyes and they opened completely up and it's like my brain focused. It was like, oh my gosh. And so now my eyes are open and awake and you can see the beautiful blues and my brain can focus when I'm doing that amino. So it's incredible. And it was like the missing link. So big difference.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Michelle, and taking time away from your second mother and your lunch, as it is lunchtime in the Pacific time zone.
And now she won't need to take those forever. It really is just about replenishing, because then we should be able to get enough from our food sources. And we know most of us don't. So if you're talking to me, I'm of the opinion that we need to supplement. And so keep those things in mind.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Miriam has a question, and you touched on it a little bit. Her question is, do amino acids address alcoholism and drug addiction?
Yes, they can have an impact and very much beneficially improve the struggle that's there. Yeah, so Julia Ross has set up many clinics here in California using amino acids via IV therapy. And they have found not only recovery, but the relapse was greater than, or excuse me, the relapse was less than like 30%, where it had been 70 plus, 70 to 80% would relapse.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's significant.
hugely significant. Yes. And
All
we're
right.
going to touch on that if we get to some of the other slides.
Okay, well, we've got AJ with his hand up and another question. AJ?
Sorry, Yvonne, you're just gonna have to come back.
Yep.
You just finish out, but okay, Paul and Cheryl mention a lot. I don't know if you know them. They talk a lot the need, and this year they were going to make a big push about us getting more aminos. And you mentioned that it's necessary to have the Uber drivers, the 60 minerals that we know of, maybe more, and our 90 essential nutrients. But if someone wanted a power dose of these aminos, how can they contact you in order to make that connection to get that 6-month bit of power inserted into their body?
Well, thank you very much. So you're welcome to, call me, text me, email me. My company is called For a Better You Too. I have forbetteryou2.com. You can, I think, connect me with email there. I am on Facebook. I have a Facebook page under the same name. I don't know if you can put anything in the chat.
Are you on LinkedIn as well?
I am on LinkedIn, but it's not something I go to much.
Okay.
So if you want to hunt me down, you might want to do it one of the other ways, but I'm sure at some point I might see it.
And then how do you spell for?
Say again.
How do you spell For a Better?
It's the number 4, For a Better You, but it's the letter U. For a Better You and the number 2. For a Better You2.com. And I also have a Facebook page of the same name.
And then what about your email, better@YvonneRea.com?
Correct.
And that is YVONNEREA.com for an email for Yvonne. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for sharing that information with us. And Ruth Ellen, did you have a question?
I have a question, but also I wanted to let people know that if you want to chat, Zoom changed the chat. So you have to go to the top of the chat box. On the top is a little blue box with a pencil icon in it. And then you would select the person that you want to chat with, since we don't allow everyone to chat. And please don't send it to Yvonne, because she's not concentrating on that. Send it to Rebecca or AJ or myself or Sherry, because Marilyn also is busy typing away. But I wanted to, mention, because I'm a recovering person. I have 30 years sober in like 7 months, I think. And when I first got sober, my counselor, who had never been an alcoholic, would tell me when I'd wake up from a using dream or something and like literally still be high from my dream, to just eat some ice cream. I gained 40 pounds. It's ridiculous. But also amino acids and all of that is wonderful. And I know that taking the AminoCharge before I go to bed has been really beneficial to me. But if you're recovering out there, you still need to work on here mentally and your heart, and heal your heart and your soul. Forgive yourself. If you can't forgive yourself, you're going to struggle really, really hard. And, just keep in mind that you still need a program. You still need support, because there will be a time that you will struggle with something. And I don't want you to relapse. Just do it for 10 minutes. You can stay sober for 10 minutes at a time, whatever it takes. That's what I did. So that's all I really wanted to say, because I don't want somebody out there who's struggling with addiction, especially IV drug addiction, and think that they don't need anything other than what Yvonne is talking about, which will help you a great deal. So listen to her, okay?
It'll certainly get you started, and congratulations to your 30 years.
Thank you.
But yes, it is something that for many, they'll actually be able to, the cravings will begin to stop. And you said something about forgive yourself. I have seen some here that when they recognized it was something out of their control, when the neurotransmitters started coming and they were not interested. The gal I told you about that was, her family had said she was an alcoholic, 1 glass of wine a day just to take the chill off. But she also said she recognizes, I had to have it. Within like a week's time, I think it was 3 or 4 days, 4 or 5 days, she drank half of it. And then a couple days later, her and her husband, they cook every day. They come home from work, they cook together. They didn't pull out the wine. I don't know, day 7 or 9, I can't remember.
Fantastic.
But it blew her mind, because her family, and she had that guilt, like you're talking about. She did do some other things as you are talking about. And, but it gave her that, we'll just call it that kind of proverbial hump. But we do know that there is more to the nutrient density once it can do dopamine. This is one of the 3 catecholamines, and you'll see on what it's associated with: confidence, ambition, drive, motivation. And oftentimes when we're low in the catecholamines, apathy, if you understand what apathy is, it's not depression, it's just flat. I know I'm supposed to be happy, or I know I'm supposed to be sad. I'm just flat. The energy levels are low. Dopamine is what's part of the medication for Parkinson's. We've seen Parkinson's people have improvements in their symptoms by increasing their dopamines through the amino acids. And for this one, that amino acid is tyrosine. I got to tell you, I say this, anybody that is familiar with a Monster or Rockstar, I think that the scientists behind those, they were geniuses, because they took several problems that we have in America, one being low energy, 2 being focus and concentration, and they put in amino acids in those drinks. Tyrosine, taurine provide help to the neurotransmitters. I think several have gotten a bad rap. When you're pushing 100 plus, milligrams of caffeine, yeah, that can be a problem. But somebody was pretty genius there. Sometimes, real quick, if you are low in dopamine, the stimulants often used, you can see there towards the bottom. How many of you needed or want or desire or think about, maybe you've been told you have a food addiction, like I was told I had a food addiction, because if I couldn't get myself a coffee drink between the hours of 1 and 3 when my kids were younger, I would actually make something at home, put it in a ice chest, carry it around, and then mix my coffee and my ice when I was ready. Talk about a food addiction.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was low in dopamine, but had no idea. And, you know, a little bit like what Ruth Ellen said, I actually, after my kids, I continued to put on more weight. At one point, I was 60 pounds heavier than I am today.
Well, I know that I'm definitely going to be increasing my Get Going Plus because that has the amino acids. So we have some pretty brilliant brains ourselves in our formulators with the Get Going Plus. The Rebound has amino acids in there. If you're wanting a meal replacement that is rich in amino acids, folks, get with your longevity distributor or your coach and ask them for that Befull AminoCharge. Or if you're just wanting to add some AminoCharge to your current shake, you got the AminoCharge itself. All amazing. I've tried them all. I actually have the Get Going Plus here in my cup. So now I know more about why I should be drinking it. Thank you, Yvonne. And I encourage each and every one of you that if you're not working with a coach and you were not referred to this program by somebody specific, feel free to visit our website, dailywithdoc.com, as we do have a store there. We have the products that were mentioned. But most of all, if you'd like to get connected with a certified holistic health coach and you are not working with somebody, that's very important. Because the person that referred you to this program may possibly be one of our amazing certified holistic health coaches or one of our just nutrition advocates and care about you. So that getting back with them is very important. But for those who have nobody else to get back to, we do have a call team of certified holistic health coaches at 855-949-3377. Again, that's 855-949-3377. And if I could get our co-hosts up on the screen with us, we absolutely, Yvonne, need to have you come back for part 2 and 3, I think, because we only got through a couple of your slides. And this is so important. I mean, yes, the 90 essential nutrients are so important. They include 12 amino acids. And something that was mentioned in our coaches chat, and I believe it was Hattie that mentioned it, who had one of our questions today, is that when you learn the importance and how important that nutrition is, you find a way to take it in. If you have to mix it with something to make it taste better, you find a way because it is so important and you feel the difference, folks. Today we have on with us Marilyn, who is just doing a fantastic job putting information in the chat. Again, only available if you're here live with us in the Zoom. Thank you so much, Marilyn. We have Albert, who's letting people in and joining us from South Africa. So if you do call that number and it's like in the middle of the night, you may be getting an amazing accent from Albert joining us from South Africa, who's helped us have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week phone team. So thank you, Albert. And we have Ruth Ellen, who is my executive production manager, helping to make sure that the video from Zoom gets put with the graphics that then gets pushed out to what you are seeing if you are watching us out on YouTube or Rumble or Brighteon or Instagram or any of the social platforms. Thank you, Ruth Ellen, for putting those graphics together and stitching the video in there. We also have on our tech team, Miss Sherry, and Sherry is helping set up the stream and keeping an eye on the stream to make sure that it flows. Thank you so much, Sherry. And we have AJ, who does a big part of putting together the content that is included with each of the shows in the chat, or in the description. So folks, if you're out on any of the social media platforms, make sure you hit that see more so that you can get more information about the show, about the products, about the person that is our guest on the show, and more about how you too can get a better health journey or join us in this crusade, as Dr. Wallach calls it, crusade to save humanity. The information is there as well on how you can join us. You can also call the number 855-949-3377. But again, even if you want to get part of the crusade, if somebody referred you, they are your point of contact. Yvonne, thank you again so much for being on with us. We look forward to the next part that continues this series on amino acids with you. We appreciate your wealth of knowledge.
I think we already have a date on that too.
July.
Oh, perfect.
July
When was
2nd.
that? July 2nd. Awesome, folks. So make sure that if you're watching part 1, you want to go look for part 2, July 2nd. Folks, my name is Becca Dukes as the producer of this show, also the Director of Student Services of the Institute of Holistic Health and a certified naturopathic practitioner. You cannot underestimate the power of nutrition. If you're experiencing decline in health, it's not because you're chemical deficient. There's over 900 different symptoms of poor health that are directly related to nutritional deficiencies, and it's proven by science. So we're not just talking about something that is an experience. These things are proven by science, and we encourage you to give yourself a needed boost and invest in your own health. Get back with the person that shared this program with you. And until next time, have a fantastic day. Bye for now. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.